And I'm doing my best to set this up so you can see me cut. I'm going to do a video that's just the process of me doing 2 masks all the way through. There are other people here and they may come in making noise or whatever else, but that's not the point of this video. It's just to simply show the process from cutting to finishing 2 masks. I'm going to use my templates. I have my regular adult template, and then I have, they're just plastic acrylic, and I have a youth one that I'm going to make. I'm going to make a Minecraft with a different interior and exterior, and then I'm going to make a Batman mask with a yellow interior. So the basic process that I use, in this case, I'm actually going to fussy cut this one because I actually want this Minecraft on the side. So I'm going to simply fold this over, you know, at the spot that I want to make it. And I'm going to cut the front and the back, or the 2 sides together, and run through the process. I use a rotary cutter. You obviously can cut with, you know, scissors or whatever else. And here comes children. It's okay. So, and simply cut out the process here, or the template. As I said, people come in and make noise, and that's happening, but it's part of our home, and that's what we're doing at the moment. So once I cut these 2 items, I'm going to face the fabrics because I have to sew them wrong sides, or the right sides together. So cut the fabrics this way. Normally, if I wasn't fussy cutting, I would cut them right sides together so that I didn't have to reset them. So now I have my wrong sides out, and I'm going to sew this side, and I will use my rotary cutter that has my pinking blade on it after I sew it, or sew that seam together. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and for the interior, and I'm simply going to put the right sides together so that I don't have to reset it after I've cut it. So now I've got my interior, it's already faced together. So it's a full set for that mask that I'm ready to sew that together. I'm going to set these aside. So now I'm doing the toddler of my Batman fabric. Now keep in mind that some of your fabric may be oriented. In this case, it's not oriented. You know, they're simply tossed onto the fabric. So it doesn't really matter which particular way I cut this. So I'm simply going to make optimum use of the corners that are already cut and lay it out that way. Now my wife doesn't particularly care for these acrylic templates. She'd much rather use the paper so that she's not messing up the blades. I do tend to hit the blades periodically, so now I'm going to face those together. And the interior fabric, again, if you're doing multiple of these, you can put them together so that you're cutting 4 layers. Right now I'm just cutting 2 layers of fabric. Not everybody wants to do it that way, but you know, if you're able to cut 4 layers at once, it's much more efficient to have your interior and exterior cut together. When I'm doing my filter pockets, I definitely will cut multiple pieces of fabric all at once. Okay, so now I've got my interior and exterior for these fabrics cut. I'm going to take these over and I will sew these all together in a chain. Let's go over to the sewing machine, which is pretty close to where we were just at. I'll let you watch me actually sew these together. Now I happen to have, and I'm going to show you here, I actually have tape that helps me align, and I have it at 3/8 of an inch already laid out. So I simply follow that line as I'm sewing. Now I don't cut my thread here. I simply put the next piece up and keep sewing with it. So I'm chain sewing. I want to line these sides so I've got the fabric, you know, as close to the way I cut it as possible. So that's the first step. So I'm going to take these back now and I'm going to crinkle cut them. I'm going to pinking cut them on my cutting table. I want to cut about, I've got a 3/8 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to cut off about half of that seam. And I try to pay attention to it fairly well because my wife tells me that I cut way too much off. And my wife is here, by the way. She's overseeing this and probably chuckling at all the things that I say that I do right. And she's a wonderful mentor, teacher, and partner. I did not know how to even use a sewing machine until I met her, and she has helped me progress, but there's still a plethora of things she doesn't let me sew because she wants it done right. So in any case, so now I've crinkle cut those and we're ready to put the fronts and the backs together. So back to our little sewing machine here. So now in this case, we're simply opening up these two pieces, the interior and exterior, and we're facing them together. The tops are probably the most important, so I will put those together. My suggestion is to make sure when you do it to switch these two seams so they're going opposite directions because it'll reduce the bulk when you sew it. So we're going to go through, check both of those, get those aligned, and then simply sew those together. Again, I'm going to chain this with the next one. And again, I'm lining it up with my tape just for alignment purposes to get my 3/8 of an inch. I'm probably paying closer attention to what I'm doing only because somebody else is going to see it and, you know, notice what I was working on. So. Switch them over. We're going to stitch the tops of them. Again, making sure that these seams are going in opposite directions, again, will reduce the bulk. And we're done, and we can go back to the other table and crinkle cut. In this case, I'm not going to bother with that because I have my pinking shears here. And I'm simply going to cut off, you know, the top of this and round around, again, about half of that seam allowance. It'll just make it easier to turn and easier to iron flat. Ironing is probably the thing that I am least capable of doing well, and I'm really slow at it. So now we've got the fronts and the backs together. We're simply going to turn them right side out. Put your finger in, Simply grab it, grab an end of it, pull it through, and turn it right side out. So the biggest thing here, in my opinion, is to make sure that the top is pressed open for ironing. So we got that mask set. Do the next one. Ms. Mora, do you think you could iron these for us? If I have my wife iron them, you'll get the best demo, and you'll not be able to critique my ironing, which I can tell you right now is less than adequate. All right, so we got these opened, and we'll take them over to her table. If I can actually open them. All right, so again, push that top open, and we'll take them over to her table, and she will iron them with great efficiency. Look at these fantastic fruits and vegetable masks that she's making. So, all right. Watch the mastress. See, she's already correcting my stuff, so I cut it too big.
One was bigger than the other one, so I just trimmed them even. So lay out the mask in the direction it's going to go. And I like to start at the top right and work my way around the mask, almost like a circle. But first, I just press that end open so it stays in one place while I'm ironing the rest of it. Use a lot of steam, but back the iron up if you have to fiddle with the seam so you don't burn your fingers off. When I get up to the top, I'm going to use the iron to hold that seam in place so it doesn't twist while I sew down the iron down the other side. I'm stopping an inch or two from the end, and I'm going to turn the whole mask over. I'm going to do the same thing with the second side that I did with the first. Just open it up, get it laying nice, and then press that in place so it's stable while I iron across the bottom. When I get to the center seam, I'm going to lift the mask and just rock it back and forth to press along that initial center seam. I'm going to turn it and do the last quarter the same way. Iron the other half of the center seam. I'm going to tuck the edge in about 3/8 of an inch. Pull it hard to get the seams to lay nice. Back down on the ironing board and press it with a whole bunch of steam. And do that on the other end. I'm having to tuck this end in a little more than 3/8 because I had white showing from the selvage, but it still looks pretty even. There's one.
All right, so while she's doing the other one, I will top stitch this one. Again, just to try and get efficiency of the video here. So you can top stitch whichever order you want, but do about 1/8 of an inch on the top stitching is my suggestion. Do whatever you're comfortable with though. So as you're going along, my recommendation is to trim your threads. Try to keep it clean as you're going so you don't have a whole bunch of threads hanging out afterwards. It just makes it a lot easier. I think my wife just chuckled at me.
I did.
As if I don't do that all the time. We do sort of run things in a production mode here normally. So now what I'm going to do, I've got that mask top stitched, and what we do is we fold this over approximately 3/8 of an inch.
3/4.
Or 3/4 of an inch, I apologize. Thank you. And we stitch along there. and that leaves this open. We can either put a tie through it or we can put elastic through it. It doesn't matter which at that point. So now for reference, I do have a small piece of tape here that has my measurement on it. I'm not sure if you can actually see it, but I have that measurement just in case I'm feeling insecure about it, which I do about many things, and simply measure for it and then run it through. So other than adding the tie and the elastic, this mask is complete. Either the ties or the elastic, that is. So that is a complete mask, and I'll show you how we add the elastic to it as well. And let me grab the other one and do that. Thank you, Mom. She's such a good lady. Now, if you chain stitch these and do multiple at a time, you'll have much less thread to trim. When you're cutting in between each one or you stop in between each one, you definitely have a lot more threads that you have to worry about and clean up. So just as a note that it's way more efficient for a plethora of reasons to chain stitch them if you can do lots of them at once. And I'll chain stitch each of these. I'll do all the tops and chain stitch them. I'll do all the bottoms and chain stitch. And then as I turn the sides in, I will do the same thing. I will continue to chain those as well. Again, this one is now complete, and we will put the elastic in so you can see how we're doing it. It's nice and trim, not a whole lot extra, but that's a finished mask. All right, so now we'll go over here. I've got pre-cut elastic, you know, that, we cut lots and lots of elastic. You pre-cut them. We cut ours to 10 inches. But you can cut them to whatever you're comfortable with. Different organizations want different amounts. I use a hook to pull mine through. We have a variety of preferences of who uses what size and so forth for it. And of course, I didn't get that pulled through because I'm talking. See, you see me struggling now. All right, so pull it through and we'll tie it. I'll pull both ends through and then I'll tie them. And my tying skills are phenomenal.
You want me to tie them?
They're right close to my, no, I don't want you to tie them, but thank you, love.
They're close to your ironing skills.
They're really close. I was going to say, it's really close to my ironing skills. She loves me so much. She loves me enough to be honest. Maybe that's it.
I love you enough to tie all your elastics and iron your masks for you.
And then I have that whole pile of them over there that... And yet, here we are.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, simply grab the ends, tie it like a balloon, and put them through. Try to keep the straps or the ends as short as possible so that you've got the longest elastic. So we simply tie it and then I run it back through and put it inside of this end. So you don't see the knot in here, but if somebody wanted to pull it out and untie it or retie it or, you know, cut it shorter, they could do that. So here's one completely completed mask with elastic ready to go out the door. And the next one. We got done there, pull it through. And the second one completed here. So I have 2 masks, 21 minutes on the video, and there was some chatting, but about 20 minutes to do the two masks, you know, simultaneously. So it's not necessarily 10 minutes a mask if I weren't doing them together, but it's not a whole lot longer. So that's how I do masks. So any questions, reach out. Thanks. Bye.